All right, so today we're going to be talking about any key and core reporting functionalities that you need to track in project management other than project status. And today we have here our Director of Client Experience, Kelly Williams, at Optimize IS. So, Kelly, if you want to give a little bit of an intro and we can jump into the question.
Yep, thanks, Ben. As Ben said, Director of Client Experience. Previous lives, I've ran security PMOs at two publicly traded companies. And that's where a lot of my PMO project program portfolio management experience comes from.
Sweet. So, the question that we have is aside from project status, what are some of the core things you need to track in a project's lifecycle? What are some things to
Yep.
report on as well?
Yeah, I think a project status is today. So the point in time, are we on track? Are we on schedule? Are we behind? Are we at risk? But that doesn't always tell you the health of the project, right? Like what's the trend? What's the change? What are we thinking is going to happen? And I think of using different reporting mechanisms as a way to see around the corner. Like what do we need to start preparing for that isn't directly in our line of sight? And what I have traditionally used is resources, schedule, budget, and then like sometimes also like risks or issues, and pulling all of those together in different ways to say, hey, I'm a little worried that one of our team members is on four very highly visible projects, or we're on schedule right now, but we're starting to get really closer to missing our milestone dates. So again, like being able to tease all of that information out of a project versus just say, it's due in a month and yes, we're still working on it, really gives a PMO team leader or any team that's managing a bunch of projects a better way to know where there might be risks and issues to focus on.
So, what about reporting functionalities to look back in time? So, I know a lot of that is what's kind of the forecast? What do you see as like core reporting if you wanted to look at maybe
Yeah,
historical
absolutely.
performance?
So that's really like where are we along our milestones? And so if I can see across like the life cycle of a project or a program, which is a collection of projects, that we are always behind on delivering on our milestones, then a couple things are wrong. And that gives me an indicator to go look. Is it because we're forecasting incorrectly and we're being extremely optimistic on how quickly we can get things done? Are we looking at projects individually instead of across the collection of projects and maybe some of our resources are over allocated? Or are we just not organized and we're not necessarily like keeping track to the milestones and we're jumping into too many firefighting items instead of focusing on our future project work?
And how much of this would you say have you seen done well in Airtable?
I've seen it done great in Airtable. So building out what I did at the communications company. So we started with projects, quickly expanded into programs and portfolios. And as we played more with formulas, as I dug into the real deep minutia of how I wanted to report on those items, that's when I realized the power of Airtable and the ability to customize, to do calculations based on any kind of indicator that you want, whether it's a drop down, whether it's a percent completion of a task related to the overall timeline to get something done, that all of those different things can be done. And I have a true number rather than a gut feel to be able to talk about the health of a project really helped me as a PMO leader to communicate to the leadership and the decision makers of where we needed to focus resources to start solving for future problems.
Like, it sounds like there's quite a few different types of stakeholders that we're going to be looking at some of this data. Were you able to like build the Airtable in a way where it worked for those different stakeholders, or was there just like one view where everybody saw everything?
No, definitely at different stakeholder levels. So one of the things that I thought was really key is that a team leader who maybe had between 3 and 7 people on his or her team could look at the projects related to the team, the health of the individual from like a resource allocation perspective, and they only had to look at their items. Not that they didn't care about the other items, but you really need to make sure that you're not missing the goal of what is within your team. So being able to use the custom filtering, the custom access controls, and that I could give anybody a presentation of data and they were going to see what was relevant to them was really important. Also, the team leaders needed to be able to dig into a different level of detail than maybe our C level or higher level or VPs did within the security team, because they wanted, at a team lead perspective, do you want to know, like, is the project being derailed for a certain reason, or is it related to resource allocation? Where at the bigger level, where you're looking at all of the projects or all of the programs together, you're looking for that common theme. And it could be that across a team or across a collection of projects and programs, there's a common problem, and it could be planning incorrectly. We're always very optimistic in PMOs that projects start on January 2nd and they finish on December 31st, and they never do. We never plan for last year's projects rolling over. That's an indicator where we're not planning properly, that we're underestimating the level of effort that needs to be dedicated by specific resources across these different projects and programs. And being able to pull that information up at the higher level gives that leadership the ability to go to their team and say, here's what's happening, and here's what we're going to focus on changing so that we're more effective on delivering our projects over time.
That sounds like some great stuff that we've helped our clients build into Airtable.
Yes.
I know from your past experiences and even like now comparing different softwares and the different clients that we're working with, a big thing that comes up is like, why would I go with Airtable over like a purpose-built tool? So I think that's what we'll be discussing in the next video. If you want to click on the end screen, I think we'll be talking through like why would you build something completely bespoke and custom in Airtable when maybe like 80% of what you could do is already in Monday or Rike or Asana. So click the video here on the end screen if you want to learn more about that.